Okay, so we've learned about all the different functions that you have within the camera on your phone and what they can do. So now what we're going to do is go through the best way to use them and to implement it. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a tiny little photo shoot and we're going to actually create a reel as well. So I'm going to be teaching you in this one about, maybe composition is best. Do you remember we turned the grid on? So we're going to be using the grid properly to show rule of thirds. We're going to story tell, so we're going to use a model, happens to be Hedy, and she's going to be telling us a story of what she does in the workplace. Not actually telling us, but doing it visually. We're going to be flipping through the different modes in the phone, the ones that I think you would be using the most, which would be photo, portraiture, and obviously your cinematic filming. And if you haven't got cinematic, most of what I'm going to tell you is also going to be regarded in just the video setting as well. It's all to do with lighting, composition, and storytelling. So come on, let's go and start our wonderful photo shoot with Hedy today. We've come to this wonderful office working space. I mean, aesthetically pleasing, you can't get much better than this. But I've done this for a reason, because most offices that we go to now have lost that corporate feel. So they're very much like this. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of different textures. There's a lot of different lighting scenarios. This has its own kitchen. So for what I'm saying, for all the purposes that you need to be creating content for, it's great. Portraiture photography, wide angle photography to show workspaces. There's plenty of meeting rooms, so there's some wonderful stuff going on in here. But what we're going to do, as you can see, Hedy's sitting here working with a cup of tea. All right for some, isn't it? So what we're going to do, we're going to take some photos of Hedy sitting there working. And what I want to work on more than anything is composition with you and depth. So there's a reason that we talk about depth a lot in photography. So depth, I feel, makes stuff stand out a lot more and gives everything a way more professional feel. So look, let's talk about wedding photography. Everybody likes them candid shots, and the reason why they look so good is because they're so far away from any background. That is literally what you're looking at. So when I say about far away from background, I'm talking about blur in the background. This is stuff that you can create with these. Now I'm guessing most of you would have portrait mode. Now some of you might not have the options I have. So I have 3 different. Now the iPhone 15 has literally just come out as we're filming this, and that now has a 5x zoom camera in portrait mode. I don't have that, I just had the 14 Pro, which is up to 3x. Okay, so before we do anything on the shoot, we clean our lenses because it's been in our pocket and we've travelled here, so we need to clean the lens. So let's just do that quickly. There we go. So lens is all clean now. So now what we want to do is we're going to open up our camera app into the photo mode. So now let's just turn around here and we're looking at Hedy just doing some of her work that she's doing on her laptop whilst drinking her cup of tea. Now we're going to be looking at how she's positioned here. It looks fairly good, it's not bad. There's a lot going on there. There's some really nice leading lines. I don't know if you can see the big metal pipe in the background there. That's a leading line. The office is in the background there, and also the beam that's right behind her. It doesn't actually look that bad, to be honest. So let's just snap a shot here. Okay. Now maybe if we just move around a little bit so she doesn't have the wooden beam coming out the top of her head there, maybe if we can just move around a little bit to here and just come down at a different angle, you can see here that we still have leading lines. There's leading lines from the roof bars that are coming up here. I say roof bars, I think that's probably the wrong word. The timbers that run there. There's also a nice desk at the background. It's quite nicely framed by the window. So that's actually quite a nice shot. So let's take a photo there. So as far as these 2 shots go, they're not actually too bad, if I'm honest, because they're composed quite nicely. like I say, everything in here has leading lines. And when I talk about leading lines, I'm talking about your eye being drawn to where the subject is. There's a lot of that going on here with brick walls, bare timber frames, a lot of the woodwork. It's very industrial, so there's a lot of leading lines in here. So it works really well for portraiture photography. Now what we're going to do is just going to flip over to portrait mode. And we're going to have a little play around in portrait mode and just show you how much better we can make these photos look. So keeping Hedy where she is there, we're just going to flip to portrait mode. Now, I'm on ×3 there, I'm just going to knock it back to ×2. Okay, so there actually doesn't look too bad. It's framed quite nicely. We can see the beam that's here, the sofa, there's a little plant in the background. Actually looks quite good. Now, if we just tap the little bar at the top, we can change the exposure if we want. I have everything underexposed a little bit just because I feel it's a lot better when it comes to editing. We don't need the timer in this one. We literally just need Hedy how she is. Now, if you look at the F number, we're on F16. We want to turn that right down. See what's happened to the background? Looks so much better. So let's just take a shot there quickly. Lovely. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're actually going to move Hedy around a little bit. Hedy, could you just come to the edge of the sofa here? Now I've done this for a reason. Because if I just move around a little bit here, there is a lot more depth and a lot more going on in the background. So can you see all of a sudden how much better that shot looks? Smile for me, Hedy. Lovely. See how much better that shot looks than what it did when it was against something a bit flatter. So there's also some other techniques that you can use with this leading lines that I keep talking about as well. And we're going to use that with the brick wall that we've got here. So I'm just going to ask Hedy just to come and move over a little bit further for me, and we're going to do a couple of shots by the brick wall. I'm going to show you something else involving composition, and I keep banging on about this rule of thirds. So rule of thirds is where your eye is going to be drawn to. In this particular shot, I'm going to use a lot of open space. So although we've got a massive brick wall here, I'm not going to use the entire brick wall as a shot, and Hedy's not going to be slap bang in the middle. Now, if I visually show you that, I think you might understand what I'm saying. So we're going to be using open space in our photo. It looks a lot more artistic, it's a bit more different, and if you are doing any sort of branding, so if we want to say maybe like Hedy's title or what she does as a job or what she's offering or something, we've got a lot of open space to be able to put some text in there. So let me just show you what I mean within my photo. So just using Hedy against the brick wall there, we're just on the ×1 zoom at the moment. So we want to move in a lot closer. So we're going ×3. Okay, so when I talk about composition, look at my grid. So my grid is split up into 3 horizontal lines and 3 vertical lines. Now, if I put Hedy slap bang in the middle, there's a lot of brick wall there, and she is just bang in the middle of that. Now, it looks all right, but for me, I don't think that looks very pleasing on the eye. If we just turn it slightly to one side, I'm just going to the right, and you can see her belt buckle is literally on one of the crosses, and her neck is just on one of the crosses. So she's within the rule of thirds now. Now we're just going to snap a picture there. And there's enough room on the right-hand side if we need to put any text, any branding or anything, or we can just leave it plain. And I'll show you in the editing as well how good you can make this look just by simply cropping the image in even more to give you even more negative space. So you can see just by using negative space how good you can make a photo look. It's not like your everyday sort of holiday snap. You know, we're really using and utilising a lot of the stuff that we've got around us. There's some tables here as well, so we're also going to muck around with some shots within the table. So remember me talking about background and foregrounds? So we're going to really utilise that as well. So I'm going to put a laptop in the way of where Hedy's working, and she's going to be working on a laptop, but I'm going to shoot through a laptop. So it's framed a lot nicer, and it just looks a lot more pleasing on the eye. So let me show you what I mean by that. So what we're trying to achieve here is trying to achieve a more dynamic shot. So separating background and foreground again, but this time we're going to put something in the way of the foreground, so Hetty's in the background. So turning around to what I was talking about beforehand. So instead of enhancing the background and making that more blurred, we're now going to blur the foreground. I think you'll see what I mean in a second when I actually show you. So to be able to create this, I need a bit of room in front of Hetty. So what I've done is I'm going to position myself probably about 6-7 feet away from her. And I've put a laptop in the way, and there's some chairs in the way, the beam's in the way, there's a few other bits and pieces in the way, but watch what happens. It honestly looks really good, just trust me on this one. Okay, so we're just here now in our normal photo mode. You can see what I was talking about. I put a laptop in the way, there's a yellow chair in the way, you know, and Hetty's right over there in the background, working away nicely. Now I'm just going to switch over to portrait mode, and I'm in ×3. Okay, so as you can see, we've now got Hetty in our sights. Here's the laptop on the left-hand side here, the yellow chair. If you just look at your laptop, Hetty, and just continue working for us, we can get a nice shot in action of Hetty working. Just look up for me and see how nicely everything's framing her. See all the industrial roof that's there, the beam in the background, the chair, the laptop, everything. It's put her in a beautiful little square there in the third of the picture, because there's space at the top of her head, the bottom of the head, left and right, so she's within the third of the picture. So that's just a few tips on photography, depth of field, and the different functions. So mainly in the photo mode and portrait mode. The other modes wouldn't really work in here too much. What we're going to do now is we're going to create a reel or a small video. It's all going to be shot in portrait mode. When I talk about portrait and landscape mode, I mean the phone's going to be held more upright than what it is this way. This is portrait mode. I'm not talking about the portrait setting. I'm talking about the actual way round that it's going to be shot, which is portrait. So everything's going to be shot in that way so that we can use all this for our socials. So what we're going to do is we're going to tell a story of when Hetty's turning up to work. I'm going to give you a few little tips of best ways to get good footage. In my opinion, and this is only my opinion, I believe that movement plays a hell of a part in any sort of cinematic feel, and I feel depth does as well. And thankfully the iPhone is really good at both. The onboard stabilization is incredible. And when I talk about that, I talk about it doesn't look super handheld. You can see it's handheld, and you can buy third-party gimbals, they're called, which is like a 3-axis motor that doesn't matter what movement you make, the camera will stay still. It actually has it built in on the iPhone, and the iPhone 15 is even better. It's incredible. But I'm going to show you how I would shoot a reel and just share that with you with some of my ideas and some shots that I would do.